Welcome back to episode number 3 of ECW on FX, and in terms of the Thursday Night Wars, we've had 2 good weeks, but TNA just came off the back of a pay-per-view, which I will note wasn't as good as our pay-per-view Guilty as Charged, but they followed up that show with a really good episode of Impact that I think we are actually going to struggle to beat. A 69C+ is better than the first 2 shows we put on, so hopefully we can do better than that. I've noticed we've got some locker room incidents as well. I've not looked at these yet. So it's just Paul Heyman passing on tips to his protege. It's involving Tommy Dreamer. Who knows, maybe Dreamer's beat up Paul Heyman this week. No, again, it's a protege thing. CM Punk really has morale issues about what happened last week, so hopefully that doesn't affect his performances too much going forward. We'll find out in this episode. So the show begins with a look back at the ending of last week's episode, the main event of which saw Sonny Siaki defeated convincingly in decisive fashion by Rob Van Dam. Following that match, CM Punk returned the favour from week 1, saving Rob Van Dam from a potential attack from Rhino and Jerry Lynn. Tonight, CM Punk and Rob Van Dam will face Jerry Lynn and Rhino in the main event of ECW on FX, the World Champions in-ring debut on the show. Also tonight, Nigel McGuinness makes his debut in singles competition with Bryan Danielson and William Regal at ringside. The opener, however, will see Low Ki face off against Ricky Reyes 2 weeks after Key and Xavier ended the undefeated run of the Havana Pitbulls, so I'm expecting a good opening match. They deliver, Low Ki with a 72, Ricky Reyes with a 48, which isn't great, but it did get the crowd buzzing. Decent wrestling. We hadn't built up much heat yet, obviously because it's the start of the show, but Low Ki wins in 11 minutes 52 with a Warrior's Wrath. His momentum is just going to keep getting better and better. He's had a great start to his run as a face. His performances have gone up notably, and I'm very happy with what we've seen from him. Following the match, the commentators put over the fact that Xavier would face Rocky Romero, the other halves of these 2 tag teams on next week's show. Low Ki and Ricky Reyes would be banned from ringside as Xavier and Rocky were tonight. As Low Ki stood tall in the ring, it was confirmed that Xavier and Low Ki were the number 1 contenders to the World Tag Team titles and would get their championship match in the coming weeks against the Havana Pitbulls. We then go into a promo hyping up that match between Jerry Lynn and Rhino and CM Punk and Rob Van Dam. Jerry Lynn speaks in a calm, considered tone, explaining how the duo intend to pick up their victory. This leads into the contrasting, jarring style of Rhino's promo, which is wall-punching, shouting his usual intensity. Rhino holds both the ECW World and Television Championships over his shoulders and says that he's beat Punk before, so tonight he's going to pin Rob Van Dam's shoulders to the canvas to prove his dominance over the ECW roster. Both men improvising well, and it's a decent promo as we go into a cutaway from the arena. This is a pre-recorded segment. The commentator is saying that they received some footage from ECW management this week, and considering who it's involving, it's not too bad of a segment. Sonny Siaki visiting Homicide, who is still recovering at home from his defeat to Low Ki at Guilty as Charged. He fell from that piece of the set and had a stunt bump on the show, so we're just selling his injuries for a few weeks. Homicide was harsh on Siaki for his defeat to Rob Van Dam, but said that talks of the Hustle's demise are premature. He told Sonny Siaki that his job was to take out Xavier because Homicide was coming back soon and the violent revolution would continue. Back in the ring, William Regal is shown with Bryan Danielson and Nigel McGuinness by his side. They've already made their entrances, as has Nigel McGuinness' opponent Chad Collyer. William Regal introduces the 2 men to the live audience the first time they've been out in front of a crowd, saying that stood beside him are 2 very different men with very different outlooks on the sport of professional wrestling. One thing they do have in common, however, is that they are world-travelled athletes and world-class competitors. So William Regal continuing to put over Bryan Danielson and Nigel McGuinness. It's McGuinness' debut next, so I'm hoping we can see a good in-ring performance, an encouraging start, hopefully. He gets a 52, which is okay, and it's not that good of a match. Not too disheartened by the fact that he's got a 52 because it is his debut, but he was off his game, which you'd hope somebody making their first match in the company would make sure they weren't off the game. Can't do anything about that now, and he picks up a decisive win in 6 minutes 3 seconds. It's not a squash match, and Chad Collyer is no pushover. The commentators put over that he has a really good record since coming to ECW, but McGuinness just clearly has too much of him, pretty much from the opening bell. After the match, Chad Collyer has to be helped to the back by Brent Albright, who was at ringside with him, looking almost unaware of what had just hit him. In the ring, William Regal raised the hand of Nigel McGuinness. He had a smug sense of satisfaction on his face, that decisive victory, almost saying, "I told you how good these guys were." Obviously the performance wasn't quite up to the level that I'd hoped, but it is a good win, at least in terms of storyline. Heading to the back, another interview is conducted promoting the main event. CM Punk and Rob Van Dam responding to the words of Rhino and Jerry Lynn from earlier. However, before we can get too into the promo, CM Punk is jumped by Steve Corino and Paul Burchill. His partner Rob Van Dam tries to help him, but gets a stiff elbow to the face from Paul Burchill, which sends him backwards. Corino tells Punk, "I warned you." He's obviously still angry about what happened to his sister Alison Danger at Guilty as Charged, and a vicious beatdown leaves CM Punk in a very, very serious condition before the main event. Rob Van Dam and CM Punk improvising well, Corino not doing so well. It's a decent segment. Again, I'd hope for better. Rob Van Dam, CM Punk and Steve Corino are always good for ratings with us, so I did hope we could get a C+ for that segment. We've not had any sort of killer angles on tonight's show, so we've got to hope that this main event delivers, but we do continue to storylines with that. Before the main event, RVD comes down to the ring alone. There's no sign of CM Punk. The commentators hearing that RVD will now have to face Jerry Lynn and Rhino on his own due to the fact that CM Punk had been injured in the back. However, as RVD gets in the ring ready to face that uphill challenge, Tommy Dreamer comes out and says that he'll take CM Punk's place. Punk might not be happy about that because obviously he had his backstage issue with Tommy Dreamer last week. In front of the cameras, they are actually friends. They had a segment the other week where they seemed to be getting on. Obviously, things took a turn for the worse backstage, but the referee then holds his finger to his ear. He says that he's allowing it. The match has been made. Rob Van Dam and Tommy Dreamer will now face Jerry Lynn and Rhino in the main event. Shortly after Dreamer enters the ring ready to start the match, the hooded figure who attacked him at Guilty as Charged and who has appeared on the first couple of episodes of FX, I think it was only on the second episode actually, he pushes a fan from their seat. While Dreamer is clearly distracted, he refuses to take his focus off the main event. He has made a vow to Rob Van Dam and he is not going to let the hooded man take his eye off the ball. He gets an average rating for the crazy gimmick. I'm not bothered about anything involving the hooded man at the minute because it's Devon Storm who we've signed on a month contract. He's just a placeholder before. I don't think that he's going to be the reveal because obviously in 2007 there's not a great relevancy. I don't know what he was doing at the time, but I don't think he'd been in a major promotion for a long time. So it's not going to be Devon Storm and we will eventually have a reveal of who is the man tormenting Tommy Dreamer. The main event gets a 63C. That means that I think Impact is going to be the better show of the two this week. Can't really focus on that. Hopefully we can still beat them in the TV ratings. But it's a decent match. Jerry Lynn and Rhino picking up the victory when Jerry Lynn pins Tommy Dreamer. Obviously before the match, Rhino said that his intention was to beat Rob Van Dam. He was unable to do that, but the two did brawl on the outside and Rhino hits a gore to Rob Van Dam on an exposed piece of the concrete floor which took him out. That meant that Jerry Lynn and Rhino then only had to focus on Tommy Dreamer. Jerry Lynn, the weak link, I'm surprised by that, getting only a 43. That is really disappointing. When Tommy Dreamer's doing better than you really need to step up your game. But Dreamer is the one pinned by Jerry Lynn, and it's a victory for the heels in a 63 rated match. Rhino and Rob Van Dam obviously getting their main event level performances that we expect from them. After the match, the show ended with Rhino and Jerry Lynn finally standing tall as ECW on FX went off the air, following back-to-back weeks of being upstaged by Rob Van Dam and CM Punk. While Rhino didn't get to pin RVD like he'd promised, he did leave him in a bad way on the outside and had the last laugh as he stood tall with both titles in the air. CM Punk and Rob Van Dam, his two main challengers, both in terrible ways in separate situations. Jerry Lynn continued to serve as the champion's hype man, pointing to him to end the show. The commentators putting over the fact that they have heard that Steve Corino has issued a challenge to CM Punk to kick off next week's episode of ECW on FX. Whether Punk will be in any fit state to accept that challenge remains to be seen, but that's just a little hook to hopefully bring people back for next week's show. And given it's only a 60C rating, it does increase our popularity in 41 regions, but Impact was better than us this week, and that is disappointing. We had a good run of 2 weeks. I did hope that we'd just continue dominating them week after week after week. More important, of course, is the TV rating, and we'll see very soon if we've done better than them again, or if the pre-recorded Impact, which did get a very solid show rating, has caused people to migrate over to Spike. So we'll look first at how our show did. That's better than the first week actually, 1.6 million viewers, so I don't think TNA will be anywhere close to that. I think it's going to be another win for us. They got 1.34, which again I think is better from them. I think they've done better week on week on week actually. a 1.64, then a 1.75, then a 1.78, so they've got better every week. We started well, went down, but have gone up above even our debut episode, probably the draw of having both Rhino and Rob Van Dam in the main event, so I'm happy with that. TNA Impact, technically the better show of the week, but winning out the TV ratings once again. That makes it 3-2 ECW on FX and 0 to TNA Impact. That said, it's not all good news, as FX were unhappy with the quality of last night's show, which did not meet their minimum requirement of 62. It only got a 60, so that is something to keep in mind going forward to make sure that we don't get kicked off the network and pretty much spell the end of this war before it's even begun.